Imagine wading through a Florida canal on a humid afternoon, checking your fishing nets. The water is murky, but peaceful. Then suddenly, without warning, 20 feet of pure muscle explodes from beneath the surface. Massive jaws lined with teeth clamp around your torso. You're dragged underwater, spinning violently in what scientists call the death roll, a technique designed to dismember large prey. Within minutes, you're gone. This isn't happening in Africa. This is Florida, United States. And the predator responsible isn't the relatively gentle American crocodile, but Africa's most dangerous apex predator species that kills between 200 and 745 people every single year, with a 63% fatality rate in every attack. According to research published in the journal Herpetological Conservation and Biology, Nile crocodiles have been confirmed living wild in South Florida. 4 specimens were captured between 2000 and 2014, and DNA testing proved they're genetically identical to populations from South Africa and Madagascar. These crocodiles didn't evolve here and weren't introduced by wildlife managers. They arrived through Florida's booming exotic pet trade, when owners realized a cute baby crocodile becomes a 20-foot man-eater within just a few years. And what scientists discovered next shocked the entire conservation community. One recaptured female grew 28% faster in Florida than juveniles grow in native, meaning Florida's warm climate and abundant prey make it ideal habitat for these apex predators. So how did Africa's deadliest crocodile end up in America? Why are they so much more dangerous than native species? And could Florida be facing the next Burmese python disaster, but with a predator that actually views humans as food? Let's find out together. Right now, you're looking at the Florida Everglades, covering over 1.5 million acres across southern Florida. It's one of the most unique ecosystems on Earth for millions of years. This system functioned in perfect balance because American alligators controlled fish populations. The threatened American crocodile occupied coastal and brackish zones, and wading birds thrived in massive colonies. The American crocodile, Crocodilus aquatus, is considered one of the most gentle crocodilian species. Males reach about 15 feet, females between 8 and 13 feet, and fatal attacks on humans are extraordinarily rare in Florida. But between 2000 and 2014, something strange began happening because researchers started capturing crocodiles that looked wrong, slightly different, oddly proportioned compared to American crocodiles. The first specimen was captured in 2000 near Miami. It had escaped from Billy's Swamp, safari in Hendry County back in the late 1990s, when staff estimated it measured just 1.5 meters. By 2000, it measured 3 meters, nearly 10 feet long. The second was captured April 14, 2009, on a neighbor's porch in Miami by Robert Freer, who immediately recognized this wasn't normal. The third was captured October 27, 2011, at a park in Homestead, just 3.8 feet long and 9.7 pounds. The fourth was captured March 13, 2014, another female in a Homestead canal, measuring just 2.8 feet. But here's where it gets truly terrifying. That fourth crocodile was released because the captor lacked permits. Then recaptured 1 year later, in 2015, inside Everglades National Park. After just 1 year, it had grown from 2.8 feet to 5.5 feet. Its weight jumping to 37 pounds, a growth rate nearly 28% faster than juveniles typically grow in Africa. This proved Nile crocodiles don't just survive in Florida, they thrive. Professor Frank Mazzotti from the University of Florida led the DNA analysis. The results were unmistakable. All 4 crocodiles were confirmed as Nile crocodiles, Crocodilus niloticus, native to sub-Saharan Africa. The DNA matched populations from South Africa and Madagascar. 3 of the 4 were genetically identical, suggesting they came from the same source. The DNA didn't match specimens at Disney's Animal Kingdom or other Florida zoos, pointing to one inescapable conclusion: Florida's illegal exotic pet trade was the source. And here's what makes Nile crocodiles so devastatingly dangerous. The Nile crocodile is the second largest crocodile species worldwide. Adult males typically measure 11 to 16 feet, but specimens exceeding 20 feet have been documented. The largest recorded measured over 21 feet and weighed approximately 2,400 pounds. In Burundi, A legendary crocodile named Gustav is estimated at 20 feet long, weighing close to 2,000 pounds, and believed to have killed between 200 and 300 people. But size isn't the only difference. While American crocodiles are shy and reclusive, avoiding humans whenever possible, Nile crocodiles are notorious as one of the most aggressive crocodilian species on Earth. In their native African range, Nile crocodiles kill an estimated 275 to 745 people annually, with a 63% fatality rate in documented attacks. That means if a Nile crocodile attacks you in water, you have a 63% chance of dying. By comparison, American alligators killed only 14 people in Florida between 1948 and 2004 to 56 years of data. Less than one death per year from millions of alligators. Nile crocodiles evolved to hunt large mammals, including zebras, wildebeest, buffalo, and yes, humans. They employ ambush tactics, lying motionless at water's edge, completely submerged except for eyes, waiting for prey. When prey approaches, the crocodile explodes from water with terrifying speed, clamping massive jaws around the victim. The bite force exceeds 5,000 pounds per square inch, among the strongest in the animal kingdom. Once the jaws clamp shut, the crocodile drags prey underwater, then performs the death roll, spinning violently to disorient, drown, and dismember the victim. Florida provides absolutely perfect habitat for Nile crocodiles. The subtropical climate closely mimics their native range with warm, year-round temperatures, abundant water, and plentiful prey. Computer models suggest that Nile crocodiles could theoretically inhabit Florida's entire Atlantic coast and the complete Gulf of Mexico coastline. The same conditions that allowed Burmese pythons to explode from a few dozen to tens of thousands would support Nile crocodile populations easily. But unlike pythons, which rarely threaten humans, Nile crocodiles actively hunt humans. They don't avoid people, they target them as legitimate prey. When an apex predator that views humans as food establishes in a populated area, the consequences are catastrophic. Florida has over 21 million residents living near water, with millions more tourists visiting annually. Swimming, fishing, boating, and water recreation are fundamental to Florida's culture and economy. If Nile crocodiles establish breeding populations in Florida waters, beaches would require constant monitoring, swimming areas would need barriers, fishing from shore becomes dangerous, and children playing near water become vulnerable targets. Based on African statistics, Florida could see dozens or even hundreds of fatal attacks if Nile crocodile populations establish. The tourism industry, worth billions annually, would suffer devastating impacts. Property values near water would plummet. And unlike Burmese pythons that hide in remote Everglades swamps, Nile crocodiles would inhabit canals, lakes, rivers, and beaches anywhere with water where people actually live. Professor Kenneth Crisco, from the Florida Museum of Natural History, made a chilling statement in published research. The odds that the few of us who study Florida reptiles have found all of the Nile crocs out there is probably unlikely. This suggests there could be more Nile crocodiles in Florida that simply haven't been captured or documented yet. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission maintains that only 4 Nile crocodiles have ever been reported escaped, all captured years ago and believed to have come from the same facility. As of recent data, 82 facilities in Florida held licenses for Class 1 crocodilia, which includes Nile crocodiles legally. But here's the problem. The exotic pet trade is massive, largely unregulated, and often illegal. Over the last decade, large groups of Nile crocodiles were imported from South Africa and Madagascar for facilities like Disney's Animal Kingdom and to supply Florida's flourishing pet trade. Baby Nile crocodiles are adorable, small, and relatively inexpensive. But they grow incredibly fast, reaching 6 feet within 3 to 4 years. By age 10, they can exceed 12 feet and weigh several hundred pounds. Most pet owners are completely unprepared for this rapid growth. Feeding a 12-foot crocodile requires large amounts of meat weekly. Closures must be massive, secure, and reinforced. Insurance companies won't cover liability. Veterinary care is extremely expensive, and the crocodile becomes increasingly aggressive as it matures. So irresponsible owners face a choice: surrender to authorities and face fines or potential criminal charges, or release the crocodile into the wild and hope nobody discovers the source. This is exactly what happened with Burmese pythons in Florida. Starting in the 1980s and 1990s, Responsible owners released thousands of snakes into the Everglades. By 2012, pythons had devastated the ecosystem, causing a 99% decline in raccoon populations. If Nile crocodiles follow the same trajectory, the consequences would be exponentially worse, because pythons don't actively hunt humans as prey. Scientists are taking this threat extremely seriously. Monitoring programs have been established across South Florida waterways. Citizen reporting systems encourage residents to photograph and report unusual crocodilians immediately. DNA sampling of all captured crocodilians helps identify additional Nile crocodile specimens. Rapid response teams are trained to capture and remove Nile crocodiles immediately upon confirmed sighting. Because unlike with Burmese pythons, where eradication became impossible after populations established, with Nile crocodiles, early detection and rapid response might actually prevent establishment before it's too late. But there's a bizarre legal complication the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service recognizes. Nile crocodiles as endangered species regardless of location, even in non-native ranges. This means killing Nile crocodiles in Florida requires special federal permits. Penalties for killing them could be higher than killing American alligators out of season. This creates a situation where an invasive species that poses extreme danger to humans is protected by federal endangered species laws. And this bureaucratic complexity could slow response time if Nile crocodiles are discovered breeding in the wild. Now, after more than 10 years since the last confirmed capture in 2014, the situation remains uncertain and deeply concerning. This could mean three things. The 4 captured crocodiles were the only ones, and the threat has been neutralized. Additional Nile crocodiles exist, but remain undetected in remote areas. Or Nile crocodiles are present, but have learned to avoid humans, making detection extremely difficult until populations grow large. The third option is particularly concerning because it mirrors what happened with Burmese pythons. Pythons were first documented in the Everglades in 1979, but the population didn't explode visibly until the early 2000s, when breeding had been happening undetected for over 2 decades. By the time scientists realized the scope, tens of thousands existed, and eradication became biologically impossible. If Nile crocodiles are breeding undetected in remote areas right now, we might not discover the population until it's already too late. Female Nile crocodiles reach sexual maturity at approximately 12 to 15 years, males at 10 to 12 years. A mature female can lay between 25 and 80 eggs per nest, buried in sand near water's edge. Eggs incubate for approximately 90 days before hatching. Unlike American crocodiles with relatively low reproductive success, Nile crocodiles are highly successful breeders with strong parental care. Mothers guard nests aggressively, carefully dig out hatchlings and carry them to water. Juveniles stay near mother for weeks or months, and this parental care significantly increases survival rates. If even 2 Nile crocodiles, 1 male, 1 female successfully bred in Florida undetected, the population could expand rapidly. Within 10 years, dozens could exist. Within 20 years, hundreds. Within 30 years, thousands could be established, like Burmese pythons. And by then, eradication would be completely impossible. Here's the uncomfortable truth. We got lucky with pythons. They're terrifying, ecologically devastating, and impossible to eradicate, costing hundreds of millions in control efforts annually. But pythons don't hunt humans. Fatal python attacks on humans are extremely rare worldwide. Pythons hide in remote wilderness areas, away from human populations. Nile crocodiles are fundamentally different. They actively inhabit areas where humans live, work, and recreate. They view humans as legitimate prey items, not threats to avoid. They're responsible for hundreds of fatal attacks annually in Africa. If Nile crocodiles establish in Florida, it won't just be an ecological disaster like pythons, it will be a public safety crisis, unlike anything Florida has ever faced. Swimming beaches could become death traps. Fishing from shore becomes potentially fatal. Kayaking, canoeing, and paddleboarding in canals would risk sudden ambush attacks. Even walking dogs near water could result in fatal encounters. The economic impact would exceed billions in lost tourism revenue. Property values near water would crash. Insurance rates would skyrocket. And unlike pythons, which can be controlled through hunting programs, Nile crocodiles are protected by federal endangered species laws, making removal legally complicated. The lesson is crystal clear. Prevention is the only real solution. Once an invasive species establishes breeding populations across a landscape, eradication becomes biologically and economically impossible. Florida learned this with Burmese pythons, Australia learned with cane toads, the United States learned with Asian carp. Every single time, the pattern is identical. Species arrives through pet trade. Escapes or release occurs. Population establishes. Breeding begins undetected. And by the time it's discovered, it's too late. The solution isn't better control methods or increased funding for eradication after establishment. The solution is prevention through strict biosecurity, licensing, enforcement, and education. Countries like Australia and New Zealand learned these lessons through devastating invasive species disasters. Now they have the strictest biosecurity laws on Earth, every shipping container inspected, every traveler screened, every imported animal rigorously quarantined, because they understand that keeping invasive species out is infinitely easier and cheaper than trying to eradicate them after establishment. Florida has improved exotic pet regulations dramatically since the 1990s. It's now illegal to own Burmese pythons without special permits, and breeding is banned for many high-risk species. But enforcement remains challenging with limited resources, and the exotic pet trade continues operating through legal loopholes. Online sales, reptile shows, and private breeders all continue selling dangerous species to unprepared owners daily. Until the exotic pet trade is regulated as strictly as other industries involving dangerous animals, the cycle will continue repeating. The Nile crocodiles that arrived in Florida through the exotic pet trade as cute babies have become a ticking time bomb that could explode into Florida's worst invasive species nightmare. 4 have been captured and removed, but are there more hidden in remote waterways, breeding undetected right now? Scientists believe the answer is probably yes, but until they're found and documented, we won't know the true scope of this invasion. And by the time we discover breeding populations established successfully, it might already be too late to stop them. If this story shocked you, if you had no idea that Africa's deadliest predator was living wild in Florida waters, then share it, talk about it, and remember it when someone suggests that exotic pets are harmless if properly contained. Let's make sure the Nile crocodile disaster remains a warning, not a blueprint for future catastrophes. What do you think? Should Florida ban all Nile crocodile ownership completely to prevent future escapes? Or are current regulations sufficient to control the threat? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss more wild and unbelievable animal tales. Because when it comes to invasive species, the truth is always more terrifying than anyone expected. Thanks for watching, and next time we'll explore another incredible ecological story that will leave you speechless. Stay curious, stay wild.